All right, we begin with news of the appointment of a substantive government statistician. A statement issued by the Ghana Statistical Service says the president, upon the recommendation of the Public Services Commission, has appointed Professor Samuel Kobna Enim as government statistician. Professor Enim assumed duty on the 1st of March. Joining me with more on this is Assistant Business Editor Northern Aqua Hayford to tell us more about the man you're seeing in your shots tonight. Northern, what more do we know about Professor Enim?
Okay, Prof was at the University of Cape Coast. He was an associate professor of economics, and he was also in charge of the DRC department, or he was the director of that particular department at the University of Cape Coast. And they have something they call the microeconometrics. And then he was the one who was in charge. He is actually also credited at the university for having initiated the Microfinance Unit Center for Data Archiving, Management Analysis and Advocacy and Economic Policy Modeling Unit at the Department of Economics at the University of Cape Coast.
Oh, okay, and he's filling in as the substantive government statistician. This is a position where we've seen people act so many times. Tell us about that.
Yes, and you know, after Grace Bediako exited as a substantive person, Philomena Nyako, when she came in, she also acted in that position for over 5 years. After Grace exited, you had Bawade also coming in. He also acted until he went on retirement, and then Combien was made to act, I think, some few months, and then we've had a substantive person, you know, coming in to fill the position.
Okay, and so what kind of work is cut out for Professor Enim?
Of course, when it comes to all the issues of statistics, sensors, of course, the GDP figures. I mean, if he was around, he would have led the rebasing of the economy. When you talk of inflation and the producer price index, and so issues concerning statistics as far as the country is concerned, this is the man who is going to be in charge to ensure that we get the right figures that we need, or the right data. And of course, if you look at his background, he's somebody who has been working in the area of data coupled with economics and all that. He's an associate professor of economics, so he understands very well statistics and how to ensure that you do the percentages, you get the right figures that will be able to say, okay, this is the position of the Ghanaian economy. They'll be working very much close with the finance ministry, with the Bank of Ghana, because all these institutions depend on the Ghana Statistical Service to really understand what is going on as far as, you know, the economy is concerned.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Northern Aqua Hayford, briefing us on the substantive appointment made by the president for the post of government statistician in the person of Professor Enim. We'll have more on that as people begin to react to the news that finally we have a substantive government statistician. Well, speak about statistics, economist Courage Mate has described the World Bank's economic projections for Ghana as good news. The figure of 7.6% growth for 2019, according to the World Bank, is likely to be achieved by government on the back of agriculture and oil production. Speaking on the marketplace, Mr. Mate said the new figure will mean inclusive growth if it is sustained.
Can only mean good fortunes, especially if this will be sustained in the years ahead. And it is good because if you recall, in 2017, we grew by 8% overall, but a lot of it was oil-driven. And the bulk of labor and the bulk of the domestic economy is non-oil. Over 90% of the domestic economy is non-oil. So if you are growing 8% led by oil, then that growth is not inclusive, meaning a lot of people do not share in that benefit. But now, the growth momentum is to be driven by non-oil sector. And so if you have over 90% of the economy dragging the growth upwards, then growth is more likely to be inclusive and shared by most, if not all. Now, if it is sustained, the benefit is even greater in the long run. It could even go up in the future, holding other factors constant, because we do not operate in isolation. I mean, the global economy is not really looking very robust, and so aggregate demand for output out there could wobble if the weaknesses persist. But then looking just within, if you you consider the oil exploration plans that is being submitted by, say, Aker Energy, for instance, who have submitted some $4 billion or $4.4 billion development plan, that bodes well for hydrocarbon, oil and gas to add on top of the non-oil improvements that we are seeing. So just holding the external sectors constant and looking at the domestic factors, then it's very good for our outlook as well.
Meanwhile, the IMF says it sees the global economy slowing and is urging leaders around the world to handle this delicate moment with care. Ahead of the launch of the World Economic Outlook on Tuesday, the fund's chief economist, Geeta Kopinath, said the IMF is projecting weaker growth for 70% of the global economy, but expects a recovery in 2020.
The global expansion continues to weaken. For 70% of the global economy, we are projecting slower growth in 2019 relative to 2018. We expect a recovery in 2020, but because of important downside risks, this recovery is precarious. Now, one of the most important downside risks relates to trade policy. While there has been an improvement with trade talks between the US and China, we are still concerned that trade tensions may escalate and they may expand to other sectors like the auto sector, which can have very damaging impact on the global economy. It's important for policymakers to keep in mind that this is a delicate moment for the global economy, which means that do no harm, work cooperatively to reduce the heightened levels of policy uncertainty in the world, especially with trade tensions, to make sure that fiscal policy balances the needs of growth while making sure debt is sustainable and macroprudential risks are managed.
While the World Bank has been having its own engagements here in Africa, it is proposing extensive training in entrepreneurship on digital programs for sub-Saharan countries, including Ghana. Now, according to the bank, this measure will reduce the cost of moving into a digital economy, which is likely to be a burden on many developing countries. World Bank Chief Economist for Africa, Albert Zilfak, also believes this could help reduce the high unemployment rate in the country. Here's a report. According to the World Bank, the impact of external shocks on African countries can be resolved by a digital revolution. World Bank Chief Economist for Africa, Albert Zilfak, says digital transformation can increase growth by nearly 2 percentage points annually and reduce poverty in sub-Saharan Africa alone. He therefore called for a rapid development in broadband deployment, as it is the next game changer for Africa.
The type of skills that would be useful for the youth in the future would have to include a hefty dose of digital skills. So those skills need to be taught in school, right from primary up to tertiary education. Another very important aspect of the digital economy that we are emphasizing is digital entrepreneurship. And that's why we see the digital as actually source of jobs for the African youth.
In its Pulse report, the World Bank also made a strong case for digital skills to be part of government's job creation agenda, as well as implementing programs that will improve electronic transactions for the state.
Countries should invest in digital platforms. And investing in digital platforms, including those that allow the government to function better and provide better services, would all contribute to higher growth in the future and therefore reducing that overall cost of embracing the digital economy.
Ghana has been making some strides in its digital transition, making the country play a leading role in embracing a digital economy. Eslo Usu-Ekufo is Minister for Communication.
Since 2005 or so, we have been embarking on e-governance initiatives in this country. His Excellency the President was clear in his mind that digitalization was one of the tools with which we could formalize our economy.
Well, tonight, there are calls going for government to take punitive action against persons and contractors who destroy underground cables of network service providers. According to the Managing Director of Internet Services Provider Africa Online, the issue of fiber cutting is costing huge revenue losses to service providers. Now, speaking at the launch of the company's new broadband service, Jola Broadband. The managing director of Africa Online, Foster Plender, said government needs to hold people accountable for the damages caused to network providers.
Construction works by developers, farming and activity by utility providers often lead to the digging up and destruction of fiber cables buried underground. According to information by the Telecoms Chamber, there were more than 2,200 fiber cuts across the country in 2018, costing telecom operators more than $3 million to fix and several hours in downtime for subscribers. Touching on the issue, Managing Director for Africa Online, Foster Plender, said it's about time people were held accountable for the damages.
You get your wayleaf permission that you're going to be digging this road. Then you need to inform all of the utilities, the power authority, the water, the telecoms authorities. You need to inform them that there's going to be works taking place in these areas. They then can decide whether they need to maybe divert their existing infrastructure or whether they need to protect it in some way. And if there is a damage, there needs to be accountability towards the contractor, that the contractor gets charged for that damage. At the moment, there isn't. They'll do a damage, the operator will come along and they'll repair the cable, and generally speaking, the contractor will walk away free. And therefore, the only way you're going to stop that is by hurting the pocket of the contractors who are causing damage on a daily basis by digging roads up with no concern about what the implication is. And the implication is big, because if you cut through a fiber cable, that could be your major international link out of Ghana to Europe or to Americas, and that could bring your whole network down for several hours while the cable is repaired.
Foster Plender was speaking at the launch of its new Jola service, a high-speed broadband satellite. According to the MD, the new Jola service has 100% coverage of Ghana, so even the remotest locations can be connected.
This is helping move Ghana forward towards having everyone connected. You know, you mentioned that there was a number of areas in the country that we can't get service to, you know, because it's so remote or it's too expensive to actually get the terrestrial infrastructure there. This is where satellite comes into its own, because you can literally within one day put your satellite dish on the ground and you can have broadband internet connectivity to that location.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
Now, over 100 locations in the Ashanti region out of 625 nationwide are targeted to benefit from mobile telecom giant MTN's internet service upgrade. It is part of the company's $160 million investment in technology deployment following the installation of 4.5G for improved coverage. This was revealed when MTN engaged its customers, shareholders and partners at a soiree in Kumasi.
An amount of $144 million was invested last year for network improvements. Besides upgrading from 4G to 4.5G internet service, introduction of a wireless internet box for homes is being piloted with over 7,000 boxes sold so far. Chief Executive Officer for MTN, Selom Adadevo, gives details of the investment.
This year we're investing $160 million in technology infrastructure. This includes sites, this includes fiber networks so that you can have faster speeds where you are at your offices, in your homes. This includes technology on phones, on devices, so you can enjoy specific services, IT systems, databases. A lot of infrastructure that we're implementing this year for $160 million. As part of our 4G campaign, we launched a product called TurboNet. I'm sure some of you have heard of TurboNet. Now we've launched that product as a pilot, which allows you to have a wireless box for internet at home. In the past, we had to dig fiber in the ground all the way to people's doorsteps. Today, you can pick up a box in our office, you can plug it in at home, no fiber, but you can enjoy the speeds of a fiber network on our TurboNet.
MTN customers are at the center of the company's activities this year, as depicted at the event where some of them received awards. Jemima Kote Walsh is Customer Relations Executive.
we see our customers as our partners, and they're very important stakeholders. So they keep us in business. So it's really right, you know, to take time out to do this, to say thank you and to appreciate and celebrate them as well for giving us business. Because as I said earlier, without them, we wouldn't be here. So that's the essence of it.
Nana Ojima reporting.
Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority is urging Ghanaians to see the payment of taxes as a call to duty and honor them always. According to the GRA, people's dissatisfaction with the lack of social amenities in the country should push them to pay more taxes so government can undertake projects to develop the country. Assistant Commissioner of the GRA in charge of the Central Region, George Amankwa Boateng, wants workers of the service to exhibit utmost professionalism in dealing with clients. Richard Kojinyako has more.
It is common knowledge that those of us in the Central Region are demanding our fair share of development, i.e. good roads, clean water and sanitation, 24/7 power supply, improved hospital facilities, payment of NHIS arrears, improved security in the country, among others, because we have the right to these amenities. The Central Region, unfortunately, has almost become the Bacchus of Ghana in terms of development. Unfortunately, development rides on the taxes citizens voluntarily pay to GRA or government.
Assistant Commissioner of the Ghana Revenue Authority in charge of the Central Region, George Amankwa Boateng, urging the public to honor their statutory duty of paying taxes. According to him, the GRA has made it a point to provide quality and professional services across all of its services and frontier posts to their customers, and their workers should brace themselves for the task to rake in more revenue.
The whole of the month of April has been designated as the Client Service Month. This means that going forward, GRA will observe the month of April as the Client Service Month. It will be dubbed as the Yellow Month, and will coincide with the filing of annual tax returns, and we would therefore expect an influx of clients or taxpayers visiting our offices. It is expected that all our offices will embrace a positive culture, a positive corporate culture, which will impact on GRA's image positively.
Central Regional Minister Kwame Nadankan bemoaned how lateness is making the country lose a lot of revenue. He wants a change in such attitudes to enable the country grow in leaps and bounds.
Until this attitude changes, until our response to time, until we begin to ensure that time is wealth, time is money, time is everything, we will not make any serious headway. If you want to see this Ghana, our Ghana progress, our Ghana see the development that other places have seen, the unfortunate thing in His grace is that we have a flight. Many of us here, I'm sure, have traveled. We have a flight, and some even get in there 2 hours before you begin to go through the check-in processes. And yet, there's a program for all of us, 10 a.m., and that one, no, this time nobody has come.
Special guests for the event, the Omahin of Ogwa Traditional Area, Osabere Makwesiata II, and the Metropolitan Catholic Archbishop of Cape Coast, Most Reverend Gabriel Palmer-Bakel, joined the regional minister to call for attitudinal change among Ghanaians for the country to develop. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Now, a father used what he felt was fear of potential intertribal marriage as an excuse to force his daughter to drop out of school. That was at the time she had gained admission to Wesley Girls High School in Cape Coast. Could it be a genuine and reasonable concern or just a cover-up for financial difficulties? Well, whatever it was, a determined Janet Abobiga looked elsewhere in a bid to save the family from poverty. Today, she's credited with the establishment of one of the biggest clothing entities in Ghana. Her story is one of several to be told at the upcoming Love FM Women and Business Fair in Kumasi. Nanaya Ojima takes a look at excerpts of the stories to share.
Janet moved from the drudgery of working as a porter in the central business district of Kumasi to frying and selling of groundnuts. In the junior high school, she completed her basic education. Her former teacher advised her to learn a trade in dressmaking. By dint of hard work, Janet now owns one of the biggest dressmaking factories in the country, UniJ Fashions. Mrs. Abobiga recounts how she supported herself throughout the period of learning a trade.
Wow.
She says, at the point I decided to learn dressmaking, I had already gathered some money, so my father took me to a seamstress to pay for me to start. He kept part of the money and gave me the rest. I used that money to start a small orange business in the evening. I fed myself with the profit I made from the business, and through that, I survived. Today, she employs over 200 people directly and several others indirectly. UniJ supplies uniforms for almost all senior high schools in the Ashanti region and beyond. It has become a haven for women who share similar experiences. Another interesting story is that of Paulina Asamtin Jima, who proceeded from District Treasury Typist to the Ashanti Regional Accountant of the Ghana Highway Authority. She emphasizes hard work as key in climbing the ladder.
Look, from typist, I wrote O level, so they changed me as accounts clerk.
Okay.
So from the accounts clerk to grade 3 and senior accounts clerk.
Wow.
Then after the HND, they promoted me to accountant.
Were you brilliant in school? Your record sounds like you were sharp baby like that.
It's one man who identified that. He told me, if I've completed Form 4 and I'm yet in this situation, able to write exams with people who have completed secondary school Form 5, and I've passed, I've done better than them.
Breaking barriers to become a member of parliament and later a deputy minister in a male-dominated environment could be a Herculean task, especially for Ghanaian women. An overcomer, Elizabeth Ajeman, is now deputy minister for Ashanti region.
Women, if you want to become somebody like an MP or something, you pass through a lot. Men are always chasing us. They are still chasing some of the women in parliament. They will tell you, oh, this woman, different kind of stories, something you don't even think about. They will tell you that you have done that, you have done this, you have done, which is not true. It's just that they don't want you to be the MP. Women are always wrong, but if you insist and you want to do what you want to do, you can do it.
From Friday, 12th and 14th of April, women in all fields of endeavor will converge at the Kumasi City Mall to share more of such stories. This will happen amid exhibition of products and services, mentor each other and network for business growth. Young female entrepreneurs will also be given the opportunity to exhibit their wares and receive the necessary advice in business. As a prelude, women guests will be hosting various programs on Love FM.
And well, be on the lookout for that, especially if you're in Kumasi. That's it for Business Live. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.